Hello, this is a book review of The Freedom Artist by Ben Okri. It is like the magical realism version of The Matrix. It is like another version of Plato's allegory of the shadows in the cave, where there was a bunch of people trapped in the cave and they saw shadows moving on the cave, and that's all they knew of the world, and they thought that was their reality. Another parallel might be the story of a Flatland, right? Where a group of two-dimensional beings were living on Flatland, and so when a three-dimensional being comes and visits Flatland, they don't see their, say if it's a spherical being, a sphere in the form of a ball, they don't see the entire ball, they just see circles becoming smaller and bigger. That's how they would see that three-dimensional being. But it's also so much deeper than that because it is also a political story and a meditation on the times that we live in. And I want to talk about how it impacted me, the number one lesson about it. And I even drew uh, a drawing based on one of the symbolisms in the story, which is this upside down being, right? That's upside down. And even in this drawing, you can see the sort of sense of magical realism. And at first, I didn't understand the symbolism of the upside down being because in that story, that was their the final pivot that was turning the story around, right? Because they were living in basically a dictatorship called the hierarchy, a global dictatorship where no one knew what was truth anymore. There, so this is a story with truth and freedom as core values, and possibly uniqueness and beauty as well, but really mainly truth and freedom, right? And when truth is completely hidden and manipulated, what do you what did you, right? And so here's another drawing that I drew. Again, another upside down being. And then I drew this one, which is an upside down version of the sky gazing practice that I do. And you can also see sort of on the bottom left that there is a kind of like a white hole leading to a black hole, or a black hole leading to a white hole. So it's kind of like an open door where it becomes narrower and narrower, but on the other side is this huge pure openness, which is the thing that opens up for us when we do sky gazing, but also when we see things upside down. And that's the symbolism of the upside down being in that story for me, because we live in a system that is so upside down that in order to see it right side up, we have to see it upside down in order to turn it back around the right way. And especially, say, for example, the constant reverse victimhood that white people engage in, and their claims of so-called racism, right? There's no such thing as racism against white people because we don't have the systemic power to be racist towards white people. and they have all the systemic power, so they can never experience racism because racism is about prejudice plus power. In fact, we cannot even be prejudiced against white people because prejudice means you judge somebody before you know them. We've had 400 years to know them. We've had 400 years of evidence, so there's no such thing as prejudice either, it's just observation. So, anyway, that's just an aside. What I also found out, what I also realized on an internal personal level is that there is that as indigenous people, as a neurodivergent person, as a queer person, that the fact that we're so upside down from the system inherently, we've been judged and ridiculed and discriminated. When the truth is, because the system is so upside down, our own upside downness is actually the medicine for this world. It's the potion that will help dissolve the poisonous notions not only about who we are, but also about the nature of existence itself. And that's the number one lesson that I learned from The Freedom Artist by Ben Okri. Especially if you're black or indigenous, and even if you identify as brown, I highly, highly, highly recommend you read this. And and I highly recommend white people read it too, just to expand your perspective and stop living in your echo chamber of whiteness. And if us indigenous people want to stop assimilating and start decolonizing and re-indigenizing ourselves, then it's good for us to read too. All right, thank you so much. Have a great day.